You're listening to the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Bill McIntyre, and it's time for this week's Long Island News, the show that talks to newsmakers and other important people from Nassau and Suffolk County that matter to Long Island and Long Islanders like you. So each week we'll have a conversation about issues that affect all of us. I live on Long Island just like you, and I want to know more about the people making the big decisions that affect all of us. Well, this week, I'm happy to welcome back to the show Nassau County Legislator Siela Bynoe, a Democrat who represents the 2nd District, which includes New Cassel, Uniondale, and parts of East Meadow, Hempstead, and Westbury. And in December, she announced that she will run for the 6th District Senate seat in this year's election. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, always. You're the busy one, not me. So we thank you for making time. So first off, all right, now you just ran for re-election and you won your legislator seat
I did.
Back in November, and now you're jumping into the state Senate race.
Yes.
Okay, so what's the draw for this new job?
Well, the state Senate is, I look at it as an opportunity to advance the work that we've started here in Nassau.
Right.
We've worked with community organizations and residents to effectively deal with quite a few things, everything from the quality of water and air pollutants to issues involving mental health have been forefront of the work that we've done. And, as a former school board member at the Westbury School District, we've did a lot of work there involving, opportunities for our young people and, ensuring that we had the best level funding for resources and opportunities as the local electeds. And I've worked 20 years on Long Island to make home ownership and housing a reality for those who are seeking it. And so much of that work that we've started here, working with as a collective, right. I'd like to be able to advance that to the state because right. There's so much more to be done. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like the results of the work would be on a grander scale because
it has a larger impact? You have an ability to, many of the laws, even some of the consumer protection laws that I'm looking at here.
Are there any left?
Well, there's one that the governor signed on December 13th that will require some local intervention in terms of us now being able to enforce some protections as it relates to these fees when you produce your credit card in the store and then they tack on fees and things like that.
Right.
There's much of that work, right? Much of the work that I'm even talking about really has a grander impact coming from the state level.
Right.
There's opportunity to fund things at larger numbers. There's, like I said, the consumer protection laws, they're birthed out of the state. Real impacts that we might be able to have in housing. I believe that funding those opportunities and looking at funding vehicles to assist developers and local municipalities who want to build housing, it comes from the state level, those tax credits and things of that nature.
That's
so
funny. You mentioned the two things that you mentioned, the idea of housing and, making it possible for people to buy houses. And I only learned a little while ago that people think that they're only competing with other house buyers, families like them. And I come to learn that hedge funds are buying houses in neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. So not only are you competing with another family that wants to buy that house and live in it, you're competing with a financial institution that can blow you off the map as far as offering and they're literally buying up these houses. And I've heard it said that government would like you to own nothing and be happy.
I come from a background where governments actually
helped you.
Yeah, worked with all levels to ensure there's an opportunity to purchase. So I worked for Long Island Housing Partnership for an extended period of time, and right. We introduced and administered the down payment assistance program that was actually, it's a Nassau County program,
Right.
but it was administered by Long Island Housing Partnership. And it was to provide first-time home buyers with an opportunity,
Right,
to qualify for down payment assistance.
No.
And it coupled that with great mortgage programs
Right.
for first-time home buyers, and we were able to make dreams realities.
Right. Probably while you were in doing that, this hedge fund thing was probably not a thing.
Well, there's speculators, and there are always going to be speculators
Yeah,
too that are
that's-
even separate and apart from these hedge fund opportunities
Yeah.
that I'm hearing about, but
Yeah.
that you're telling me about. But there's always been a segment of the housing industry that was set apart from home buyers, and it was for those that were speculators and those that had the ability to, like you say, provide the higher
Come up with that kind of cash.
Yep,
Yeah.
the higher pricing.
Well, and then the other one was consumer protections. And it dawned on me that in this day and age, if a company makes a product that almost kills you, consumers really don't have much of a recourse, because most of these things, when you buy the product, you've already agreed that if there's a problem, you'll go to arbitration. You won't go to the court. Mm-hmm. And that's in most of their information. So as a consumer, the rights we used to have been really eroded.
Well, I would use a different term than eroded.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that they've been so hyper, the companies have been so hyper vigilant in protecting their own interests that they've kind of put a firewall around, protections that were previously afforded to to consumers.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, but there are protections, there are responsibility for government to ensure that regulated products that come on the market, protect consumers against any, serious negative impacts. And, case in point, the opioid, scenario that played out. Right. There's settlements that lawsuits or legal finagling couldn't protect those folks against, and so those folks had to come. Right,
but I think in that instance, it was the state that brought the charges against.
Well, that's what I said. Government. That's what I said. Government has a responsibility.
But it was not an individual opiate taker that had an avenue to go after that in any way, shape, or form. There's a doctor in between them. I wrote the prescription. You needed it. Everyone can justify what they do in that chain of events.
Well, that's and we're not saying anything different, because what I said was that government has a role in making sure that we protect our consumers. And so in this particular case, the Attorney General
did his thing,
got in and did what was right for the great people of New York State.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things I could talk to you about. Well, let's go to the next question.
Okay.
So what do you say to residents? Now, they just voted you back into the legislature about your decision to do this. Now, you've been there 10 years. Right? And
10 years next month.
Right. And I went back and listened to our last interview. You've done a lot of stuff. I mean, you really in there pitching, they're going to miss you on a local level.
Well, I hope to, I was a direct service provider for many years, having run the housing authority in North Hempstead, and then had leadership as the executive director in the town of Huntington, and then even going back to Long Island Housing Partnership. All of that was direct service. That's not a habit that's going to be hard to. It would be hard to break. I'm not going to be the person that is insulated from the community. I'm always going to be boots on the ground. I'm always going to want to hear directly from constituents. That's not going to change. It's too deeply rooted, and it's innate. It's a part of who I am.
That's your MO, right?
Yeah, and quite honestly, even when I was in banking, I was a lender. I was one of the assistant treasurers and was tasked with lending money to consumers. And I was lucky enough to be one of those tasked with advancing the bank's CRA, Community Reinvestment Act, and going out into the communities that were typically hard. They were communities that did not find access to banking easily. Right. And so my job was to break down right? All of the formalities that came with coming in and securing loans and accessing, the bank's lending platforms. And so I have been boots on the ground from way back when. So that's not going to change. I will always seek opportunities to be in the community and take advantage of invitations that come my way to be a part of initiatives, community events.
Good trouble.
Yeah, there you go.
You're listening to this week's Long Island News on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Bill McIntyre, and my guest today is Nassau County Legislator Siela Bynoe, a Democrat who represents the 2nd District, which includes Newcastle, Uniondale, and parts of East Meadow, Hempstead, and Westbury. And in December, she announced that she will run for the 6th District State Senate seat in this year's election. So if you do go to the Senate, are you going to live in Albany?
No. I will do what everyone else does.
Right.
The trek.
Yeah.
I'll do the trek from Long Island up and, every chance you get, come back down and be in district. That's what's going to inform your decisions while you're up in Albany. And, to go up and isolate and live, that wouldn't bode well. I need to be down in district.
Finding out what's going on.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, and let's see now. So that you'd be facing Assemblywoman Taylor Darling in the Democratic Party, and someone wants to know why you feel you'd be the stronger candidate.
Okay.
I think we just heard why, but
that and I will tell you what sets me apart from others that are on the field. I do believe is my direct service providing. Mm-hmm. I believe that it is. It has always been, like you say, my MO, my frame of thought is to always hear from the people directly and make informed decisions, work with community organizations that are also doing, that are doing the direct service delivery to ensure that we understand the issue, to make sure that we craft policy and initiatives that can actually, meet the intended goal. And then work with others, as we go through the process of evaluating whether we're actually, meeting the needs of our constituents to do any tweaking or adjusting that we need. So I think that the set apart here is my long tenure, and the manner to which I have provided public service over the 20 years that I've been living here on Long Island. Well,
and the network that you have developed over 10 years being here. I think that's, you can come back home from Albany and check in with all of the, that's a big.
I'm a relationship person, so, the folks that I was in the
trenches
you out
there
with.
On the front line.
Yeah, there you are. The people I was in the trenches with back in 2002 and 1999 doing housing work, like Peter Elkowitz and Jim Morgo and those folks that I worked with at LHP. I'm still in touch with them. I still talk to them regularly. Right. And I speak to some of the up and comings, the newer folks that are on the front line, the Dan Lloyds, the Jim Brents, and all of those folks. And so, I pride myself on the relationships that I've been able to build and sustained over the 20 years in service.
Right. So now I understand Democrats have had an issue with voter turnout in recent elections. Republicans have the majority in the legislature that you're a part of now, right?
Correct.
Both county executives are Republican. What's the party doing to get more Democrats to the polls to support you?
Yeah. So in this last election, what I did was, because it was primarily almost like running for the first time again, because about 70% of the district was new to me. The efforts that we made in this campaign were, it's no secret sauce, right? Just what has worked for us is what we continue to do. Right. So boots on the ground. It just keeps coming back to that grassroots type of leadership. We did 3 passes over Uniondale to make sure that folks knew who I was. Right. That they understood, what I, worked towards bringing to the community and how I would look to partner with them. And so we did 3 passes over Uniondale. We did, a couple of passes over Westbury, the new portions of Westbury. We made sure that, our communications to those individuals had some biographical elements to it, so they could understand who I am, that I'm a 50-year resident of Nassau County. That I've been on the front lines, like you say, for, the better part of, a quarter of a century, and that the intentions are pure, just to serve. And so we'll continue that same messaging while picking up, the new areas within Senate District 6. And we'll just chip away at it just the way we did in every other election, from school board in Westbury to the legislature. We will work to make sure that people know that there's a choice to be made, and provide them with all the information that they need to understand why I'm in the race,
right?
And why I would be an excellent selection.
And where could they go online to see things that you're doing?
Yeah, so to see what I'm doing currently, obviously there would be the Nassau County Legislative page. Each legislator has the benefit of having a page that is dedicated to their district, so they'd be able to go in and see who I serve, how I've served. Right. And what things I've worked on and what I'm currently working on. I'm on Facebook. I have I have a legislative page. I have a Senate page that we need to do a little more with. And I think I'm out there in, I was going to say Twitter, but that would have shown my age. I'm on X. I'm on X. And I suspect I'm on Instagram. I'm on Insta as well.
Yeah.
So we're out there on social media and on the webpage.
Yeah. All the socials. I hear that. Yep.
And there's a Senate page, Siela for Senate.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes you have to, especially for the older folks, you got to tell them exactly how to, dot this and that.
Yeah, just Google Siela for Senate and it'll come up.
Yeah,
That's the easiest thing.
Very good. We also know, Newsday reported that you negotiated with County Executive Bruce Blakeman's administration and the Las Vegas Sands executives for an additional $25 million in community benefits for Uniondale, East Meadow, and Hempstead Village before voting in favor of the county's lease agreement with the Sands for the Coliseum site. What are your thoughts on the Sands deal and where it stands right now?
So I'm not going to have much of a comment on where it stands right now because it's in litigation, and the legislature is part of that litigation. We were also sued in that. So I won't have a comment on a issue that's being litigated. But in terms of, coming to a decision, it was probably one of the hardest decisions to come by. There were so many elements to which needed to be considered. And I get it that, there are folks out there, with the unions, and they were just, looking for jobs. Their advocacy was for jobs. Right. Then you had folks that were anti-casino that are concerned with crime, and their advocacy was around, making sure the community's safe. And so, I didn't have the luxury of looking at this thing through one lens. Mm-hmm. I had to look at this through multiple different lenses. And so as an advocate, I wanted to make sure that I wanted to hear, I heard from the people who were concerned about safety and crime and the like. And I was also hearing from folks that said, listen, we need jobs. I want to keep my kids on Long Island working. I want to upskill myself and come out of this more retail type work and go into construction. I had small businesses that said this would be a boon for us if we could, get a contract out of, Sands Corp's developing of the property there. And then, we had folks that, we're looking at it as legislators, we're looking at the fiduciary, the fiscal impacts, right? Mm-hmm. The ability to bring tourism dollars here and to bring, an entity that, was able to pony up and pay, a lease on a property, based on the 78, acres that they were going to be entrusted to. And, then you look at it from a policymaker and you say, gambling, do we want gambling? But people are gambling on their phones. People are sitting all day long while, some folks are texting, some are on social media, but let it be known that some are gambling based on the statistics that we're seeing. People are gambling right on their phone. And so then you had to look at the politics of it all. Was this going to pass?
Right.
With or without my vote. So it was going to pass with or without my vote. I was hearing from the people who wanted the jobs in terms of the safety issues. We were able to also negotiate that a separate provision in the lease was going to provide for additional police that would be specifically patrolling the perimeters of that casino, paid by the developers of the resort. And so, you started looking at what were some of the controls that were put in place for some of the concerns, right? And so at the end, the long and the short of it was, at the end of the day, in reviewing this lease provision from, these lease and the provisions within them, from backwards and forward over the short period of time we had, I could see that there were some glaring holes, right? That they were only going to pay a community benefit agreement starting the day the resort doors in the casino opened. And to me, that was unfair to the community, to the host community, in so much that their, metamorphosis, the changing of that community could start on the very day, the impacts on the very day that lease is conferred. Not the lease, rather, I'm sorry, the license for the casino was conferred. And so it was in that moment that I said, no, we need to make that community as resourced as possible from the day the announcement is made that
no reason to
license.
The 2 years it's going to take to construct the thing, or
number one, if the fire department's going to be responding to it, it's probably going to need some additional apparatus and also volunteers, right? So recruiting and training and the purchasing of those, apparatus, it costs money, right? So we would need money in advance of the day the doors open. Additionally, Uniondale has, like many other communities in Nassau, are still finding their way out of that housing issue back in, 2008, where there was predatory lending. And some folks are still suffering under the weight of that. And so there's a land trust there that could help, stabilize those homeowners. And then also the homeowners that maybe had to walk away from their houses, they can go back and buy those properties and rehabilitate them and sell them to first-time home buyers. So we could fund a land trust. The library is under the weight of some real serious operational and infrastructure issues there that would benefit them from being able to move to a different plot of land, because the water table has risen where they are currently located. So the community needed some assistance. And then, quite frankly, there are some houses in East Meadow that were closer to that development location than even in some in Uniondale. So there was a negotiation for the $25 million. 5 will go to Hempstead, 10 will go to Uniondale, and 10 will go to East Meadow. So, there's an opportunity for additional community benefits to come into all of those 3 communities directly, for the purpose of being able to stabilize them and invest in them at the same time that the development would be underway.
Right. We don't have too much time left, but I do have another topic that we talk a lot about on the show is the financial condition of the Nassau University Medical Center. And when I think of that, I say, of course, that's the one that's in trouble. That's the one that probably helps most of the people in the neighborhood. It's not doctors writing prescriptions to pay their next BMW payment. You see, it really does help the community and stuff.
It's a public benefit hospital. It's not necessarily designed to, even though all the hospitals are set up to be like not-for-profits, this one in particular is a public benefit hospital where it's really needs to be reimagined under current conditions. And I see a lot of opportunity. I see the challenges. I'm not going to, negate that. But I do see a lot of opportunity there. I just don't think that there has been enough commitment from all levels of government to find a way to make this work in the immediate. We need to shore them up in their deficit, but we also, they have been, from what I'm told, at work trying to right-size some of their and provide some corrective action to some of their operational issues where they're billing and how they're managing their billing and the like. And I've heard that they've been able to do some great work there. There's much more to be done, but that doesn't wipe out the deficit, and it's not single-handedly a plan for how they can move forward into the future. I've worked through some plans that I've presented to an earlier chairman of the board, and I've had an opportunity to speak with the president of the hospital along with others that are on the board and with CSEA, and talked about that, the sketches of a broader plan where there could be a campus-like feel there where you have a feeder entity, a feeder institution, maybe a couple different feeder institutions where you maybe have some assisted living that's on campus. You have some veterans housing component that's on campus, that you have some ability to bring some of the rehabilitation and, the long-term care from Holly Patterson onto that campus. Right. So they all can be feeders for each other.
You might actually make gambling like an upstanding thing to do if it entailed, if it was involved. We got a casino, but we also have a long-term care place right here. We have it would all be on the campus of the hospital is how I envision it. There's tons of land, excess land there. I'm thinking that we could bring in some feeder organizations, and then we might be able to do something new and exciting, cutting edge, that could create jobs in Uniondale at the A. Holly Patterson campus. So there's opportunities. Yeah, I wish I could talk to you forever, but it's time to go.
Okay.
And my guest today has been Nassau County Legislator Siela Bynoe, a Democrat who represents the 2nd District, which includes New Cassel, Uniondale, and parts of East Meadow, Hempstead, and Westbury. And in December, she announced that she will run for the 6th District State Senate seat in this year's election. And again, we want to thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy. I'm not, but in any event, the clock on the wall says it's time for this week's Long Island News to get on out of here. I'm Bill McIntyre. Remember, you can listen to us by searching for this week's Long Island News wherever you listen to podcasts. And we're right here every Friday on the radio at 3 p.m. on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.